I didn't expect this. I didn't know that Bill and Hillary Clinton were in hot water. They're getting subpoenaed. At least they're being encouraged to be subpoenaed to come in and testify about the Epstein situation. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. Part of why we're happy is because Bill Clinton's name is all over that island because he is a longtime abuser of women. And that's why the feminists all came out and defended him so much. they turned against the women, the victims, and defended Bill. So we've been calling out Dems as fakes for a long time. This is just part of the long line of you've been lied to, you've continued to be lied to, and forever you will be lied to, and we're here to tell you the truth. So here's the headline look. It says House panel directs chairman to subpoena Bill and Hillary Clinton in the Epstein probe. The subpoenas will be issued in the near future, a committee aide has said. That's according to Fox News, and that's just announced now. I don't believe Hillary has a blanket pardon. Now, we're going to go into how the media is only lying to you when it comes to Democrats and Republicans. Remember, Republicans are evil, racist, evangelical, white people, old, rich. And Democrats are good, pure, well-meaning, pagan, innocent. That's according to the media. Well, here they are trying to trounce Trump for the economy. And they're always trying to own him on that to show that Republicans made a big mistake voting for Trump because, the economy was great under Biden, allegedly, and they lied about all the numbers under Biden. Now they're going to give you all negative results about Trump. This is just a graph posted by the Democrats. It says Trump's America. So they're trying to tell you U.S. grocery prices reached record highs in 2025. And if you look at this graph, it shows all the numbers flat, 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 and then suddenly they spike up right here in the middle. Well, that was all during Joe Biden's campaign. So they actually went up during Biden. Now, you'd think they'd go, oh, mea culpa, we made a big mistake. No, they didn't. Instead, so here's the actual graph that shows this pink area is Biden's regime. And you can see that's where all of the prices went up under Biden. And then this tiny little sliver over here on the right, where they merely remain high under Trump, that is, he hasn't been able to crash them down, they're blaming him for all those high prices. Well, next up, says that post has been deleted. Now, so the Democrats are not going to ever come to you and say, oh, mea culpa, we misquoted, it was Biden after all, it wasn't Trump. No, they just delete the Twitter and pretend like it doesn't exist. And then, of course, MSNBC, which posted the original graph that was a lie, they posted that all over media, and they will not post the retraction. So they're fine with their audience just living in a stupid stupor, of course.
All of these prices have gone up in 2025. That's what the headline read. But when you read the graph, the highest points were during Joe Biden's administration. And so this is the White House's response. You can see they highlighted it in red. When it was the highest, it was under Joe Biden.
Right. So they deleted it off. So obviously,
the Democrats.
There's this term in 1984, George Orwell, called the memory hole. And it's where they would take news articles, like he was so prescient, George Orwell was. They take news articles and they vanish history. They remove history. There's an old saying in communist Russia that would say in communist Russia, the future is known, it's the past that keeps changing. And that's because they would go in and censor the past and the news. And this is an example of it. They just memory hold this. It won't show up in anyone's feed now. They just zap it. Okay, let's go to next article here. This is on the past. These are the jobs approval numbers that were under Joe Biden. They lied about them too, bombshell Biden's. 400,000 job gains exposed as fake. So just when Joe Biden's poll numbers would go down, they would release that he created 400,000 jobs by a politicized group of experts that are supposed to be neutral scientists, just looking at the economy, being honest. And then we find out that 90% of them give to Democrats. New data reveals the Biden administration's claim of adding nearly 400,000 jobs from July to September of last year, right before the election, remember, was a fabrication. E.G. Antoni from Town Hall reports the jobs never existed. I just got to say, like, why do the Republicans, why does our side, how come we don't get to lie? I mean, we could do some serious good if we were allowed to lie and get away with it like the Democrats. Only they get to lie under the media. And anytime you try and pull a fast one, man, you get called out. Rightly so. I just wish they called it out on the other side, too.
Administration claims to have added almost 400,000 jobs. This is from Town Hall. From July through September of last year, but new data released this week suggests none of those jobs ever existed. In stark contrast to the monthly job reports showing an increase of 399,000 jobs during the third quarter, these numbers show a decline of 1,000 private sector jobs.
Now, last year when they reported that high jobs number, that 400,000 jobs number, I told you guys in a video, now just watch, they will all be adjusted down. Even I didn't know they would be adjusted down to zero. They went from 400,000 down to 1,000 jobs were created in that 3-month period. Even I didn't have an imagination that they would be lying this much. They were only off by 399,000 jobs. That's a 99.8% lie that the experts went out with, guys. This is what people vote for. This is why I hate everyone and everything. This is why I quit. I have to live in this world and have my art friends say, what about, Trump's jobs numbers are nowhere near Biden's. And I sound like an idiot defending him all the time, going, no, he's actually really good for the economy. Oh, Doug, you just listen to Fox News. I'm like, no, I'm looking at numbers. I swear I'm not making this stuff up. It was Matt Taibbi on how they were lying the whole time about Barack Obama, his claims that Trump colluded with Russia.
Brennan ordered them to stick it back in. And this is a recurring theme. All of this stuff, all of the other three pieces were initially rejected by the CIA as intelligence. They were literally picked out of the garbage to be put back into this thing. The second item was an email with, quote, no date, no identified sender, no clear recipient, and no classification. And the third item was an assertion basically that Russia preferred Republicans because they didn't care so much about human rights and some other comments. And they said that this was backed up by liaison reporting, diplomatic reporting, press reporting, as well as signals intelligence. But when you write these reports, they have little citations that you can look at to see where that comes from. And when they looked at the citations, none of them made sense. Like one of them was from before the election, didn't even mention Trump. Another one was after the
2014.
election. Yeah, didn't mention Trump. And another one was quoting like a Russian pundit saying that Putin and Trump should work together like businessmen.
So there was never any actionable evidence. Once again, the Democrats just made it up. They go close enough to get Trump. We all hate him, right? And then you have to ask yourself, what else were they lying about? You know what else they were lying about? They were lying that Republicans are greedy. They were lying that Republicans are white. They were lying that Republicans are old and rich. They're lying that evangelicals are hateful and intolerant. They're lying that pagans are kind. They're lying that single moms are somehow victims. They're lying about absolutely everything, or the idea that whites are racist in a way that blacks are not. Every single standpoint that the media has been reporting on, if it's close enough, they'll report it as fact and that's it. They'll tell you that life evolved from non-life. They'll tell you that everything came from nothing without a creator. They'll tell you that global climate change, well, I'm not even going to comment on that because I'll lose my YouTube channel. Here's Jim Jordan and all the lies they've been telling you.
I knew Klain back in the 90s. He's a very sharp lawyer. We were both young lawyers at the same time in D.C. But your colleague said he was, forthcoming. Tell us about it.
And I was I wasn't able to be at today's deposition. I had other responsibilities on Capitol Hill. But I was a little surprised because everyone else had exercised some kind of privilege. I figured he would too, being, the former chief of staff, but he came in and answered questions. I still think the big takeaway here is the media tried to tell us forever, the left tried to tell us forever that Joe Biden was just fine. I mean, and this is typical of the left. They told us that, Catholics are terrorists. They told us the dossier is real. They told us the laptop wasn't real. And
no inflation, no inflation during Biden.
They tell us Joe Biden's just fine when we could all see it with our own eyes. And maybe what was worse is you had people like Jake Tapper say he's just fine. And if you criticized him, oh my goodness, look what they did to Laura Trump. I mean, what he said to her. And then, of course, after it's all done and they've lied to us for 4 years, he writes a book saying, oh, you know what? He really wasn't okay. And he makes money off of that. So
that's so typical, DC.
That's
though,
so
isn't it?
typical.
Yeah.
I always say the left has a template. The left tells a lie. Big media reports the lie, big tech amplifies the lie, and then when you tell the truth, they call you a racist. Or they'll call you some other name.
Or they deplatform your channel, which we showed Scott Adams yesterday, who's one of my favorite comic book artists, who said his life was ruined by telling the truth against Biden, against Obama, and in favor of Trump. And he's not even a big Trump advocate, guys. But they will destroy your career. That's what a bully does. They can't win the argument, so they have to come and put the pressure and the thumb screws on you. That's why we call them totalitarians. They are totalitarians. And now what's the biggest lie is that we're going to go back to that Clinton being subpoenaed. Here's Trump calling them out about the Epstein stuff. Here's Trump.
Well, I don't want to talk about that. What I do want to say is that Todd is a great attorney, but you ought to be speaking about Larry Summers. You ought to be speaking about some of his friends that are hedge fund guys. They're all over the place.
These are the hedge fund guys that are named in the Epstein files. They're going to end up outing a bunch of Democrats. And the media has been telling you they're going to out a bunch of Republicans as a bunch of people interested in underage prostitution, we'll call it. And it's going to end up being a bunch of Democrat fundraisers.
You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went
and Bill Clinton, the previous president of the United States.
The island 28 times. I never went to the island.
You maintain you did not write a letter for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday?
I don't even know what they're talking about. Now, somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot. All you have to do is take a look at the dossier, the fake dossier. Everything's fake with that administration. Everything's fake with the Democrats. Take a look at what they just found about the dossier. Everything is fake. They're a bunch of sick people. Where did you see the people laying outside?
Now, this is what's weird. You know, Trump sounds like he's exaggerating. He goes, everything's fake about these sick people. And he goes, and everything about them is wrong. Everything about them is a lie. What's weird is, I know he's known to exaggerate, but in this case, he's not exaggerating. He's actually telling a very sober truth. And we've proven it over and over again. And he's going to all these journalists saying, why aren't you looking at Bill Clinton, who went to Epstein Island 28 times, and Trump has never been to the island. And they know that Clinton has gone there 28 times. And there's testimony of him taking underage prostitutes to the back of the plane on his trips to Epstein Island. And the media has zero interest, because they do not care about saving little girls. They do not care about saving children. They do not care about feminists, about women being abused. They do not care. They will cover up for it every single time. They're worse than every Republican, and they're worse than anything even Trump has done. That's my position on it. That's why I'm so furious about it. I hate lies. I hate bullies. I hate when people use mass media and the arts to tell lies, because I've tried to do the opposite my whole life. And I love getting punished for it. It's my pleasure to serve. I'm Doug in Exile.